I'm delighted to introduce to everyone Claire Williams, who's the Community Engagement Officer with Anti-Discrimination New South Wales. So Claire will be talking to us today about Anti-Discrimination New South Wales and carers in employment. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, and thanks so much for inviting me today, and it's a pleasure to come and talk to you. I'm just going to touch on discrimination and my organisation, which is a state government organisation, Anti-Discrimination New South Wales, and this is a free service. Next slide, please. Today about the types of unlawful discrimination in New South Wales. Perhaps if you want to make an inquiry on our inquiry line or a formal complaint of discrimination to us at AD New South Wales, that's Anti-Discrimination New South Wales, and a specific conversation, I suppose, about carers and disability discrimination under the New South Wales Anti-Discrimination Act. Next slide, thanks. So what do we organisation, we answer inquiries about discrimination, and I'm going to give you that telephone number at the end of the presentation. So Monday to Friday, we answer inquiries. When you actually ring our service, it's actually currently a phone line due to COVID restrictions and us all working from home. So you can call our service and make an inquiry or get some advice to be referred to another service. We also handle formal complaints of discrimination. We raise awareness about discrimination and its impacts by doing sessions today and listening to what to say about what they experience. And we also manage. So, for example, if somebody would like to employ somebody, for example, an ad that says specifically wanted a male or a female for a certain job, that organisation would have to apply for an exemption to us. We advise the government about discrimination issues, and the government often asks us saying about discrimination. Next slide, thanks. So what is discrimination? So under the Anti-Discrimination Act, which was written in 1977, discrimination is treating someone unfairly because of a characteristic they have or assumed to have that is protected by New South Wales. Next slide, thanks. So there's also two types of discrimination: direct discrimination, which I just described to you, treating somebody unfairly directly, or there's also indirect discrimination. And we find a lot of people, a lot of carers and a lot of people with disabilities, often indirect discrimination. And that's when a rule or requirement is the same for everyone, but unfairly affects people. Responsibilities as a carer or someone with a disability, and it's not reasonable in those circumstances. Next slide, thanks. So we have grounds for discrimination. So if you want to, you're complaining to us, would have to be covered in the types of discrimination that are listed. For example, making a complaint about disability discrimination, sex discrimination, and so on. So there's a big list of the different types of discrimination we cover, but we not just cover types of discrimination, we also covers areas of your public life. And we'll just go to the next slide. So just to specifically describe to you so what we're here today for in the discrimination. So that's when discriminated against unfairly because of their physical disability, their physical illness or disease, their mental or psychiatric illness, their intellectual disability, their disfigurement or Hep C HIV status. So for example, temporary illnesses are covered under disability discrimination. So COVID-19 would be covered under disability discrimination. And with the next slide, thanks, we're just going to describe to you carers' responsibilities. Now, carers' responsibilities, written in 1977, carers' responsibilities were added to the Act in 2001. So the Act is to and changed. Updating. So it's unlawful to be treated unfairly because of your responsibilities as a carer. Now, the law only covers for carers' responsibilities in New South Wales under Discrimination New South Wales, only covers your work. People who care or support for a child, a stepchild, an adopted or foster child, a child or an adult for whom you're in, family member, such as a parent, grandchild, grandparent, brother, sister, and so on. So that's what we cover in terms of carers' responsibilities. Next slide, thanks. So anti-discrimination law, I mentioned, covers your public life. So in public places, it's against the law to discriminate against someone in employment, work, or when you're getting a job, services, in shops, banks, and government services as well, in public education, public schools, TAFE, New South Wales, and universities as well, in a getting a house or a flat, and in registered alcohol that sells alcohol. In terms of that, the public places that are covered, disability discrimination covers all those areas, but as I mentioned before, carers' responsibilities is only covered in employment. So if we just go to the next slide, and I'll just describe to you that. So carers' discrimination is against the law in workplaces or in getting a job, employment agencies such as recruitment companies, such as membership of a union, and also qualifying bodies, for example, an association, if you're a nurse or is related to your qualifications. Right, thanks. A lot of inquiries at the moment and complaints about masks and vaccinations. We have a lot of information about this on our website, as does other organisations like the Australian Human Rights Commission and also the Fair Work Ombudsman. So if you're a person with a disability and believe you've been treated unfairly because you can't wear a mask, or if you've been unable to get vaccinated due to your disability, you may be able to make a complaint of disability discrimination to our organisation, and I suggest that you ring our inquiry line and get some more information. The law is complex. There are, as you know, there are public health orders, and the law is information as the situation continues. And the anti may apply in terms of you making a complaint. Part of the complaint process, we'll ask you for the details about your disability. They can't remain confidential. They can remain confidential to the person you're making a complaint against or the organisation. So we can maintain your confidentiality, but we have to know the details of your disability and the information of how your disability prevents you from wearing a mask or getting vaccinated. Thanks. So making a formal complaint, as I mentioned, we handle complaints. We have the inquiry service. And then if you decide to make a formal complaint to us, all our services are free and you don't need a solicitor to use our service. We can help you and the other party find a way of resolving the matter through a method called conciliation. Your complaint made to us sent to us via email, and I'll send you information. We have a very easy to navigate website where you can get information. We can also post you information as well. You can lodge a complaint in any language, and you can also ring our inquiry service and speak your own language by ringing a translation service first, which I'll give you the details about. If you have any questions about the complaint process, please ring our inquiry service and we'll give you further explanations, or contact me and I'll give you my details at the end of the session. Next slide, thanks. So we resolve things, as I said, using a method called conciliation. Now, because we're all working because of COVID-19, our conciliations aren't face-to-face, which we use MS Teams, and we also use telephone shuttling. So that method has changed. So conciliation is simply an opportunity for both parties to come together to discuss the complaint and find a resolution, if possible. And it's a private face-to-face meeting generally. So it's a private MS Teams. So there is our conciliator from our team, plus yourself and the other agency that you're making a complaint about. Now, not the individual bully, but a representative from that agency. So our conciliation officers and our service, we are impartial, we're neutral, and we don't take sides. But we are able to offer you information and refer you to appropriate services if it doesn't fit within our legislation. Next slide, thanks. So the possible outcomes. So we ask clients, if they are making a complaint to us, think about what will resolve this for you, what will fix the matter for you. So each situation is different, and an agreement may include an apology or a statement of regret from the organisation you're making a complaint about, and sometimes the individual. A job reinstatement, a transfer or promotion you were denied, financial access to previously denied job opportunities or services, workplace education and staff. And so, for example, that was a situation quite recently where we had a complaint about a carers matter, and we were able to provide a link. We were able to contact Carers New South Wales, and we were provided for an appropriate training service to train the staff involved with dealing with the matter. And you may ask for a change in policy. Now, also, as listed there, I've mentioned compensation. Just to note that compensation isn't paid by the government, it's paid by the agency that you're making a complaint against. So, for example, in a carer's discrimination complaint, it would be your employer. So they have to agree to the amount. Next slide, thanks. So step by step, if you've been treated unfairly, what can you do? So step by step, we want you to go away today having this really easy information as how to contact our service. Next slide, thanks. So you can make a call, as I mentioned, to our inquiry officer. The calls are confidential, free and impartial. When you ring the inquiry service, you don't have to tell us who you are. You don't have to mention your name. A complaint, you do have to tell us your details. As a community worker, you can make a complaint on behalf of someone else, but they do have to agree. You can support somebody or worker if they make a full conciliation process as well. The other party, we call the respondent, does have to know who you are if you're making a formal complaint, if you decide to go ahead and make a formal complaint to us. Next slide, thanks. So you can, as I mentioned, you can send us your complaint in writing, you can type your complaint, you can download a complaint form online, you can email us your complaint, you can write us a letter, you can send us your complaint in any language, write or type your complaint in any language, and we will translate it at our own cost. You can use Braille or record your complaint on an audio cassette. If you need assistance writing a complaint, please contact us and we'll refer you to a service that can assist you in terms of writing your complaint. But please do include all your personal details. Next slide, thanks. So let us know. We don't know you. We don't know what's happened to you. So what are the contact details of the person or the organisation you're complaining about? Were there witnesses? To have witnesses to make a complaint, that's very important to say. The times, date, to you when it happened. Handy tip, if something is happening to you in terms of discrimination, please keep a diary and when things happen, so it's more easy for you to use a service like ours. As mentioned, once you do make the formal complaint to us, we do have to contact the other agency and ask them to respond because we're being fair and neutral. So we ask them to respond to your complaint in writing. Next slide, thanks. So what happens? As I mentioned, there's a Conciliation Conference. That's a free service provided by us where we remain neutral and attempt to resolve the matter, the best outcome for both parties. On average, from start to finish, if you do make a formal complaint to us, it does take 4 months. And we do realise it's a stressful and anxious time for people, and we are aware that it's very difficult. Complaints can be normally processed in order unless they are specifically urgent for reasons which you need to discuss with us. Next slide, thanks. If your complaint isn't resolved with Anti-Discrimination New South Wales, then it will go to a tribunal. The tribunal is called NCAT. This used to be 23 separate tribunals, but now it's simply one that deals with our matters. So you can request our president, who's like our leader of the Anti-Discrimination New South Wales, to send your complaint there if it isn't resolved through the conciliation process. But if you use NCAT, it's like a court. Its hearings are public and decisions are legally binding and no longer confidential. Solicitors are normally used, but you can represent yourself. However, people tend to use a solicitor. So therefore, you have to pay your own legal costs. But we are able to refer you to legal centres where you may be able to get a pro bono lawyer. Next slide, thanks. So you can see there, we have a great new website, antidiscrimination.newsouthwales.gov.au. We've just had our website revamped. It has many easy to use resources. The first button you see that's highlighted blue says make a complaint. Makes it very easy to describe how to make a complaint. When you go navigate further down that screen, there's a number of tiles and they'll state each type of discrimination and give you more information on race, sex, disability, carers' responsibilities. On our website, we have an Auslan video, we have general videos, we have easy read guides. And I think you'll find we have a lot of stuff in lots of different languages, and there's some little moving words at the top of the screen. See specific languages. So we have a number of languages provided where people can find information in their own language. Next slide, thanks. So very much in terms of, I mentioned, and if you want to take a screenshot or a photo of that slide, that's all you'll need. So if you want to contact our phone service, I mentioned before, it's 92685544, but we also have a toll-free number, 1800-670-812. You can email us an inquiry about a complaint and give us and ask us information using that email address, the ADB contact, or you can simply ring the inquiry service. I've given you my details because one of the things I do is provide information sessions for community groups. I'm happy to do that online, obviously, at the moment due to COVID-19 for yourself. So my contact details are there. But as I mentioned before, if you want to send a complaint to us and if you want to skip the inquiry service, talking to the inquiry service, please just send your complaint to complaintsadb at, I have to read that there, justice.newsouthwales.gov.au. Please do jump on the new website. If you can put in just Anti-Discrimination New South Wales into your web browser and it will bring it up, or antidiscrimination.gov.au. And thank you so much for the opportunity to chat to you today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Fantastic. Thank you, Claire. We've probably just got time for one or perhaps two questions. I think some of these may have been addressed since they've been posted, but I have got one here. What does it cost to use the service, and do you need a solicitor?
Yeah, so it's a free service. From the whole process is free. The inquiry line is free. Process. And even if we use translation services, whether you ring our inquiry line and need an interpreter, or if you go through a conciliation process and you need an interpreter, we pay for everything, and you don't need a solicitor to use our service at all. And if the other party, the party that you're complaining about, to use a solicitor, then we would ask you if that's okay and let you know that that's happening.
Terrific. Well, thank you, Claire, so much for sharing all that important information about some of the rights and protections for carers in the workplace. We've got the, I'll be jumping on and having a look at that new website. It sounds absolutely terrific, and I'm sure there's a lot more information that can be found there. We did probably get a couple of questions, and I'll be taking those outside of this session and having a look at those questions. And I also just want to personally thank all the presenters for their time today. We know how time poor everyone is, and we really appreciate all the insights, all the information, the passion of the speakers we've heard today, the sharing of experience. It's been a lot for us to learn about in this short space of time. So my thanks to everyone who's presented here today.